Hello, my name is Daniel and we are going to get stuck straight into this bike race. I'm at Darley Moor. This is a third and fourth cap bike race. It's organised by House Race Team. Thank you to the organising team, thank you to British Cycling and anybody involved in making these events happen and enabling me to make videos about these events, so thank you very much. Now, we're just getting cracking. This is the easiest that a race has ever started here that I've been in. I cannot believe that I'm doing less than 200 watts up to the first hairpin. Unreal. It does quickly change. Right, keep an eye on the stats at the bottom of the screen. The timer on the bottom right. I do flick through various parts of this race. My strategy for this race is to think before I act. I've been doing a fair bit of bike racing over the last few months, and I did a bit last year as well with some success. I want to think. I don't want to get too caught up in attacks early on in a race that aren't actually going to affect the result. I want to save myself an attack when it matters and it's actually going to affect the end result. So early on, I'm sat right at the back of the group. You can see it's really stretched out, but in the race I've been a part of here, it doesn't actually stay away until later in the race. So we're now half an hour in. That rider on the right is Dean. He's my teammate. He's just coming back through the group because he just put a big effort in to bring back a breakaway. One of the riders in the break was a teammate of the gentleman on the left hand side that's just pulled through, Vela Bavarian. They've got 3 riders in this race. They're probably the team to watch in this race, so therefore when they had a rider in the break, it's worth keeping an eye on, and if it looks like it's going to stay away, somebody needs to do something. So thank you, Dean, for bringing that break back. Now I have in my mind here, my teammate has just worked to bring a break back, so I can't just waste that. So here I need to think about when I want to attack. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling fresh, I'm feeling like I've got some good legs, so I'm going to spend the next one side of this triangle just easing my way to the front. That hairpin we've just come round is the slowest part on the circuit. I don't have a big sprint, so when I attack there, I never really get away because a lot of other people kick out the corner and they're still on my wheel just because they've got better sprints than me. The next corner is a lot faster and it's easier for me to put a tangible difference in pace in to get a gap. I know that's hard for me to explain, but that's basically what happens. So I'm edging my way towards the front here. I can see there's 3 riders just off the front, but I'm not going to surge and close that gap. I'm going to see what happens before this next corner. If there's a breakaway established, it's easier for me to just try and jump across to it than it is for me to try and establish a breakaway. But my plan is here to come into this corner slightly wider than everybody else, try and carry a little bit more speed, and then on the way out of the corner, hit it. This race is 1 hour long, by the way, so I'm about 25 minutes away from the finish. That's exactly what I do, carry a little bit more speed in, hit it, and absolutely perfect. These all swing left and ease off, wanting somebody to pull through. Bang. Unfortunately, I'm not pulling through, I am kicking through. And you can see there's no real immediate reaction to this attack. Maybe they're not too concerned, but I am giving this everything. All too often people attack and then they start looking back and seeing what's happening. You've just got to commit for at least 30 seconds to a minute. Just pin it, and if everybody's sat on your wheel, then so be it. But I know now I just need to kick on and get a gap between me and everybody else behind. My heart rate is pretty much max. I want some people to come across to me, and that is exactly what happens. These 2 riders here, Raymond in the red, I didn't know him at the time, but his name is Raymond, and then Alex, who is rider Vela Bavarian. Now this is pretty perfect. I don't know Raymond, but I do know Alex. I've ridden with Alex a couple of times and I know he's a good rider. More importantly, he's in Vela Bavarian, so I know that his teammates behind, although they don't always do the best tactics, they shouldn't be chasing him. So therefore I know there's a couple of riders in the group behind that aren't going to be instigating a chase. If anything, they're going to be slowing it down. Now Raymond on the left looks like a strong chap, and he, if I'm honest, was directing this breakaway. I shouted something like 20-second turns, let's work hard to get away, and he said no, not long enough, 30-second turns. Okay, so he's obviously done this more than I have and a bit more experience, so I'm going to let him take control. But that was an immediate warning flag to me, this guy might know what he's doing and I might need to think about that a little bit more. Alex, I don't know too much about him as a racer. I know he's a good rider, so it was just a case of seeing how we go. Now, in terms of riding in a break, we're looking after each other, we're riding smooth, but we've got to kick on out the corners hard. We've got to work hard to get a gap between us and the peloton, sorry. Coming out this corner here, this is a key part. We've only been away 5 minutes. I just lose the wheel there at the corner and Raymond drops on Alex's wheel, so I'm essentially going to miss a turn. Now I know here, if we want to stay away for the next 25 minutes, I can't do that alone. So I make sure I pull back through, I shout to Raymond, I'm not skipping, I just lost the wheel in the corner, and he lets me back in and I'm back in the group. Now I could have missed a turn there, I could have saved my legs a little bit, but what that's doing is getting the cooperation of my breakaway compatriots, and we're actually going to be working together as a team. Fast forward to 40 minutes in. Unfortunately, we feel like we're caught here. The GoPro angle makes it look like the group are far, far away, but they're actually not. They're probably 2 or 3 seconds behind. And as we come out of this hairpin, we're pretty much caught. You can see there, they're just coming around the corner. However, Alex sits up, and we all say, well done, lads, good effort. Alex sits up and drops back to the bunch. And Raymond, very, very savvy, looks back and sees the bunch has sat up. Shouts to me, they've sat up, go. And I'm like, okay, bang. So we are gone. We're on the gas. And we actually put a good gap into the peloton again. So we're like, right, we're back on here. We could actually be, this is now a breakaway of 2. And you can see the gap just balloons out. The peloton must have thought that we were well caught, and they've sat right up thinking we've got them. And they did. But if it wasn't for Raymond's quick thinking, we'd have been back in the bunch by now. So I'm like, right, okay, same again. Let's look after each other, but let's work hard and let's see what happens. And I'm also thinking, if we do stay away, well, I've only got one person to try and beat, not 2. Now, this is a key part here. Raymond says to me when I come past, he says something like, I'm pretty cooked. Now, we're nearly an hour in. We're coming up to 2 laps to go. He says to me like he's struggling or he's feeling it, something like that. And I didn't know whether that was a massive lie and he's then going to attack me, or whether he was being genuine. And I just thought, well, I know we need to keep rolling because there's not a big gap between us and the bunch. And he does keep looking behind him, and I think he notices that the gap isn't massive. Now he shouts to me in a minute, they might ease up again if they catch me, keep going, push on. So he deliberately sits up here. Now he could have come with me, he could have sat on into this headwind. Maybe he was thinking we were going to get caught by the bunch anyway. Maybe he was thinking that I wasn't strong enough to keep us away from the bunch. I don't know. But he drops back here, and that is exactly what happens. So this bit here is into a headwind. The arrow at the bottom right is the wind. I work hard into this headwind. I know now I have a lap to go. Now I'm just coming up to the bell lap now, so 1 lap to go. I'm a lap on. I've worked hard all lap. I've still got a small gap. This bit here, this one side of the triangle into the headwind, is the most important part for me. I've got to work really hard. If I want to keep this bunch behind me, I have to be out of sight and out of mind. If I'm within 5 or 6 seconds, that's a gap that can be jumped by somebody. Somebody who's sat in for the last few laps, who fancies a last minute flyer. There'll be a few attacks in the last lap. They all take time out of me. I've got to absolutely pin it, and I'm treating this top hairpin up here like it's the finish line. You can see I'm doing 410 watts, 415 watts, 420 watts. I'm doing 26 miles an hour, 450 watts. Like it's not that fast for the speed because it's ever so slightly uphill and it is into a headwind. But this is where it counts. I know if I can get to this hairpin, and if I kick on out this hairpin, I've then got a tail or cross tail and a tailwind. I should be able to stay away, but I am absolutely flat out. We've been away now for 35 minutes, and it's been a hard ride. For the last half an hour, I normalised something like 355 watts or 360 watts, and that is a big effort for me. But I know here, I'm not even looking behind me, but I know I've pushed hard up there, and I know that the bunch are going to have to have worked hard if they're going to want to bring me back. Coming around this hairpin, it's the last lap, so I'm beginning to sniff victory, but I turn around and I see the bunch in the distance, but not too far away. A bit of encouragement from the marshal here, and I even shout something like, come on, and I think, right, I've just got to give it a bit more gas. I get up to speed, but I'm absolutely on my knees here, but I press on and manage to stay away. We've just gone around the final corner. This is coming up to the start finish. I still don't dare ease off. I'm still doing 380 watts, 390 watts. I look behind me a couple of times and I can see the bunch come around the corner, but again, I'm trying to calculate how many seconds it is, and I was thinking, well, even if it's 5 seconds, like the speed difference, they've got to be coming so much faster than me, and I'm doing 27, 28 miles an hour. The finish line's in sight, and I can't believe it. I've won a race at Darley Moor. This is only the second crit I've ever won, but thank you to my breakaway compatriots. Thank you to Dean for bringing the break back, and brilliant result for me, and on to the next one.